Nowadays, automakers constantly emphasize that their new cars are smarter, safer, and more comfortable than ever. But in reality, many drivers feel more stressed, less in control, and even less comfortable behind the wheel of a modern vehicle. The problem isn't the technology itself, but how it's applied. Many features were created with good intentions, yet they end up making the driving experience more complicated. In this article, we'll go through 8 most controversial modern features and why they sometimes make driving worse instead of better. There was a time when a beep from your car meant something was wrong. No guessing, no looking at the screen. A single short sound was enough to make you sit up straight, tighten your grip on the wheel, and focus entirely on the road ahead. Back then, beeping wasn't a reminder or a guide. It existed to warn, and it only appeared when truly necessary. Because it was rare, every beep carried weight. It commanded respect. But things are gradually changing. In theory, no one can deny that the original purpose of automotive beeps was good. They were designed to capture attention in situations the driver might overlook, or when natural reflexes needed to be triggered quickly. But what once served as a life-saving tool has now turned into an endless reminder system triggered by almost every everyday action. Today, many new cars start talking the moment you step into the cabin. Open the door, beep. Close the door, beep. Sit down, beep. Haven't buckled your seatbelt yet, even while stationary, beep. Start the engine, shift gears. Stop at a red light, turn, left, turn, right, or even just notice another vehicle at a distance you've already seen. For a while, everything comes with a sound. Before you even move, the driver is already surrounded by alerts. What's worth noting is that many modern systems no longer differentiate between levels of danger. A completely normal situation is announced with the same tone as a high-attention scenario. Everything is treated as urgent. And when everything is urgent, nothing is actually urgent anymore. The cost isn't in the ears, it's in the brain. The human brain isn't designed to continuously process repeated minor alerts. Each beep, however brief, demands some attention. When alerts occur constantly, especially in busy city traffic, the driver's focus becomes fragmented. You're no longer just driving. You're reacting to sounds. This state isn't serious enough to make you stop, but it's enough to create a lingering low-level stress. A persistent sense of annoyance makes everyday driving more tiring than necessary. And this is where the biggest paradox appears. The more beeps there are, the faster the brain learns to ignore them. The beeps fade into the background, becoming familiar noise without real information. Drivers no longer have a natural reflex when hearing a warning. When a truly important alert finally occurs, it has to compete with dozens of meaningless beeps already heard. Instead of increasing safety, the system inadvertently reduces its own effectiveness. Over the past several years, active safety assist systems have been promoted as a natural step forward in modern automotive technology. Automatic emergency braking, forward collision warning or intersection collision, avoidance support all have been introduced with the familiar message the car will help you in the most dangerous moments. These technologies were created to intervene when the driver cannot react in time or when a serious mistake could lead to a major risk. They are considered the last line of defense, a safety net behind the wheel. At least that's how the story is told. But problems start to appear when this last line of defense jumps in, even when the driver is still fully in control. In daily operation, the system cannot understand human intent. It doesn't know you are actively merging quickly to keep up with traffic. It doesn't recognize that you have already seen a sufficiently safe gap when turning left across multiple lanes. It certainly doesn't know you are moving slowly under control in a familiar, busy intersection. Instead, the system reacts based on programmed algorithms and safety thresholds, rigid, mechanical, and without context. The result, the car can brake suddenly or intervene strongly even when the driver faces no real danger. In that moment, the sense of assistance quickly turns into annoyance. Imagine this happening in the middle of an intersection or with a vehicle following closely behind. Instead of helping, the system unintentionally disrupts the synchronization between human and machine, a factor that is critical for a smooth driving experience. Over time, these moments don't just cause temporary irritation, they erode trust. When the car repeatedly acts against the driver's intentions, Failing to reflect the real situation, the driver begins to hesitate. Hesitation when accelerating, hesitation when turning, and tension even in maneuvers that have been routine for years. From there, the role of the car starts to change subtly. A car is supposed to be a tool serving humans, but when the system constantly brakes on its own, intervenes aggressively, and is especially difficult to fully disable, the feeling becomes clear the driver no longer has full control. Instead of the car supporting the human must learn to adapt to the car's reactions. Wireless phone charging in cars arrived with a very attractive promise. No messy cables, no plugging in every time you get in. Just place your phone down, drive to work, and everything will take care of itself. Sounds very modern, very much in line with the tech message American consumers have been hearing for years. The idea plays perfectly into the desire for neatness, minimalism, and convenience. It's no surprise that wireless charging quickly became a standard or optional feature on many new models, from economy to premium segments. On brochures, it looks like a small but clever step forward in modern cabin design. However, problems only appear when people actually use it. In practice, wireless charging speed in cars is often significantly slower than wired charging, especially in very common situations using navigation apps, connecting screens, listening to music, and receiving constant notifications. In these cases, power consumption is nearly equal to or even higher than the amount being charged. The result, after a long trip, the phone's battery barely increases or stays almost the same. And the heat is even more noticeable. Phones get noticeably hot in a short time, especially when the car is parked outdoors or running in hot conditions. Many systems even automatically stop charging to protect the device, causing frequent interruptions, an experience completely opposite to the effortless promise users were given. The cause isn't the phone itself, but the car's design. Wireless charging pads are usually placed deep in the center console or under the dashboard, where there is almost no airflow for cooling. Unlike desks or external chargers, in-car charging is rarely paired with active ventilation or cooling. Moreover, the cabin is already a confined space where temperatures can rise easily, especially in summer. Combining all these factors, reduced wireless charging efficiency is almost inevitable, and that's when the real experience starts to diverge sharply from the original expectation. Users hope their phone battery will increase during the journey, especially on long trips. But what they get is a phone that warms up quickly, charges very slowly, and the feeling that this feature exists more for form than function. In-car voice assistants were once promoted as a major technological breakthrough. They promised that drivers would no longer need to take their hands off the wheel, minimizing physical actions, reducing distractions, and increasing safety. But in reality, they are far from the smart promise. In operation, the system often responds slowly, and its accuracy is inconsistent. Even a simple command can be misunderstood, especially when the driver speaks naturally, or when the cabin is noisy, wind, tires, or passengers talking. This turns what should be a convenient feature into a source of subtle frustration. The ironic problem is that the driver has to adapt to the machine, not the other way around. Instead of natural communication, you have to remember the correct command formula. One extra word, a slightly long pause, or a wrong rhythm, and the system may completely ignore or misinterpret you. It feels more like giving orders to a rigid machine than having a conversation with a helpful assistant. Compared to traditional physical buttons, the frustration is even clearer. A simple button provides instant feedback, can be used out of muscle memory, and requires little thought. In many situations, a mechanical button actually reduces cognitive load more than a smart voice assistant for which you must repeat commands multiple times to be understood. Research and real-world experience also show that voice operation isn't always safer. When the system is unstable, the level of distraction can be higher than a quick physical action. The gap between marketing claims and actual experience remains significant, and it's easy for a premium feature to become a major annoyance. Modern headlight technology, especially LEDs, was once promoted as a major step forward in road safety. Brighter and clearer lights promised safer night driving than ever before. Even mainstream vehicles began equipping these headlights as standard, as if everyone deserved a headlight of the future. For drivers inside the car, the benefits are obvious. Visibility is significantly improved, making it easier to identify lanes, obstacles, and traffic signs. Automatic high beam adjustment gives drivers the feeling of owning a smart, convenient assistant. At night, this confidence behind the wheel can make many forget that safety isn't just about themselves. The problem is, while one driver benefits, others on the road pay the price. The intense brightness of LED headlights can blind oncoming drivers and those behind. Even in standard mode, other vehicles experience brief, uncomfortable glare through their mirrors. For a short moment, eyes must readjust to darkness. Visibility decreases, and the ability to recognize obstacles or lanes is impaired. This is particularly troublesome for older drivers or those with imperfect vision. Discomfort increases in bad weather. Rain amplifies reflections. Wet roads create widespread glare, and nighttime combined with bright LEDs can turn driving into a stressful challenge. A solution intended to make night driving safer can in reality make others around more tense. Additionally, many vehicles have limited options to adjust lighting. Some systems do not allow drivers to completely turn off automatic lighting, and dimming or switching to manual mode is often inflexible. Drivers lose control over adapting to real conditions. Excessive light still shines into others' eyes, while the user can do nothing but squint and hope the other driver understands. The subscription model is quietly creeping into the automotive industry, and you may have already felt its absurdity. A car you paid for in full, a physical asset you thought you fully owned, has features locked unless you pay a recurring fee. All the hardware is already installed from the factory, but software determines whether you can use it or not. The sense of ownership is instantly eroded. You no longer truly own your car. Instead, it feels like you are borrowing back the features you already purchased. When a familiar feature suddenly disappears because the subscription isn't renewed, the experience becomes inconvenient, even frustrating. Small initial costs accumulate over the years into a long-term financial burden, all just because you want to enjoy what you already paid for. The subscription model not only affects the feeling of ownership, but also undermines the traditional value of cars. A vehicle once considered a stable long-term asset now depends on whether you continue to pay. Buy once, use for a long time. A fundamental principle of the industry is now just a memory. The value of use is no longer fixed. It fluctuates according to the manufacturer's decisions and your payment schedule. Fairness in the user experience also becomes apparent. Two buyers of the same car with the same configuration may have completely different experiences simply because of the subscription plan. One has full features, the other doesn't even, though both paid the same initial price. This artificial hierarchy feels unfair, as people end up paying multiple times for the same hardware that should already belong to them. The impact extends to the used car market. A resold vehicle may lose access to certain features if the subscription expires, leaving the new owner with unexpected costs. This reduces transparency and the real value of the car in the secondary market, creating potential risks for both buyers and sellers. The start-stop system was introduced with a very green idea that sounded ideal: turn off the engine when the car is stopped to save fuel, thereby reducing emissions and meeting increasingly strict standards. On paper, this is a smart step for non-hybrid vehicles, helping save fuel in urban traffic. But in reality, it is far from smooth. The most important difference is between hybrid and non-hybrid cars. In hybrids, the electric motor assists in restarting the engine smoothly, almost imperceptibly to the driver. In non-hybrids, the internal combustion engine must restart entirely from a standstill. The result is that all smoothness disappears, replaced by a noticeable delay between releasing the brake and the car beginning to move. Slight jerks or pauses happen frequently, especially in situations requiring quick reactions. In urban environments where stop-and-go traffic is constant, the start-stop system operates far too often. Each engine shut-off and restart becomes a small but continuous annoyance, making drivers more stressed than relaxed. Instead of feeling fuel savings, you end up tolerating the inconvenience brought by the system. It's not just the jerky movement that's bothersome. Start-stop directly affects cabin comfort. When the engine shuts off, the air conditioning works less effectively, causing noticeable temperature changes, especially on hot days. Even passengers not moving in the car feel this inconvenience, a completely opposite experience from the comfort and convenience promised by manufacturers. Regarding fuel savings, the real benefits in non-hybrid cars are usually minimal. Constantly restarting the engine can easily negate the energy saved, making it difficult for drivers to recognize the actual value compared to the inconveniences they endure. The lane keep assistance system was introduced with a clear goal to prevent the car from unintentionally drifting out of its lane, especially when the driver is momentarily distracted. In theory, it's a useful layer of protection, helping reduce errors and potential accidents. However, real-world experience seems to tell a different story. In practice, the system relies on cameras and sensors to detect lane markings, automatically adjusting the steering when the car approaches the lane edge. It assumes that lane markings are always clear, consistent, and that road conditions are perfect. But as any American driver who has traveled rural roads or temporary construction zones knows, reality is rarely that ideal. Faded, broken, or inconsistent lane markings, as well as narrow lanes, are all situations where the system can misinterpret the road. In addition, rain, fog, or low light can cause cameras and sensors to lose sync, intervening at the wrong moments. When the driver actively steers to avoid an obstacle, the system sometimes reacts in the opposite direction, pulling the wheel back to what it thinks is safe. The result is that you have to apply extra force to regain control, a frustrating sensation that most drivers never want. Moments like these startle the driver and erode trust in the car because clearly the vehicle is no longer fully following your intentions. The situation becomes even more stressful on narrow or congested roads where flexible steering is necessary. Continuous intervention in these circumstances is no longer assistance, but a hindrance, an additional layer of pressure, forcing the driver to second-guess every maneuver. The issue of choice is further compounded when some cars default to having lane keep assistance turned on at every startup, and disabling the system requires navigating multiple menu steps, which is inconvenient. Could it be that these features in modern vehicles feel more like impositions than actual support tailored to the driver's needs? Piano black interiors were once promoted by car manufacturers as the pinnacle of luxury, glossy, modern high-end. Just looking at it, you can sense technology and style. On brochures, it's perfect, a single detail enough to make you feel like you're sitting in a futuristic cabin. But reality is completely different. A glossy surface only truly looks good when it's clean. Just a thin layer of dust or a few fingerprints can turn it into something that looks cheap, making you wonder, did I really just spend all that money on this? In terms of visual effect, piano black is undeniably striking. Light reflecting off the glossy surface makes the cabin feel spacious and premium, perfectly matching the techie style that car makers want you to experience. Many advertisements even use this surface as a highlight, making buyers think they own a futuristic version of a car interior. At that moment, everything seems perfect, if you're only looking from the outside, but reality is very different. This surface is extremely prone to dust and fingerprints. Even a light touch leaves clear marks. A brand new car can start to decline aesthetically after just a few days. Each time you wipe it, smudges or water streaks can appear, turning the initial glossy, luxurious look into a nuisance. The problem is not just aesthetic, it's psychological as well. Who wants to keep glancing down, fussing to keep the surface clean while driving a beautiful but non-durable interior reinforces the feeling of I paid a lot, but it's not worth it. These annoyances accumulate especially in high-end vehicles, diminishing the overall luxury experience you were expecting. And that's not even mentioning daily maintenance. To keep it glossy, you have to clean it constantly, which takes time and effort. Using the wrong cloth can leave streaks, making the situation worse. If the car has kids' pets or is used frequently, this problem becomes even more noticeable. Of course, this also affects the long-term value of the car. A quickly worn cabin makes the vehicle look less premium to potential buyers. Even if you paid a high price, the overall impression is significantly reduced. A small detail, but with a big impact, luxury does not always equal practicality. Modern cars today are not lacking in technology, but sometimes they lack finesse in how that technology is applied. Many features are created with good intentions, designed to assist and protect the driver, but their real-world implementation often doesn't align well with everyday driving experiences. What do you think about these "do everything for you" features? Are they really necessary in your car? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Finally, this video is created strictly for educational and informational purposes, drawing from publicly available sources, manufacturer guidelines, and general automotive knowledge. It is not intended to single out, criticize, or promote any specific brand, model, or vehicle type. The goal is simply to share practical insights that may help drivers better understand automatic cars and develop safer, more mindful driving habits. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.